For most people, poetry is like music. But not for me, because I'm dyslexic. Even though I love words, trying to read poetry is like listening to music with half the notes missing.
I also have trouble reading. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and for me, trying to read poetry is like trying to listen to a cello sonata during rush hour. Now imagine if every poem,
Every love letter,
every novel,
every job application were this hard to understand. For tens of millions of us living in the hidden world of dyslexia and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, this is everyday life.
One night in law school, I just got so angry at literally at my contracts book. Like, it's this big, fat law book. And I just started ripping each page out, one by one.
My name is Ben Foss. This is a group of young people with dyslexia or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, the two most common forms of learning differences. There are more than 20 million of us in the United States alone.
I'm scared because of all the people I know who I graduated from high school with, probably most of them thought that I was smarter than they were. The sorts of entry-level positions that are available to them are not really something that I can do. I met Ben when we were students at Stanford University. My ADHD means that I have trouble directing my attention and with quick recall of facts. Ben and I spend time mentoring young people who share our disabilities.
With my other three siblings, they've breezed through school so easily, and I'm sitting here struggling, so I'm like, am I that black sheep? Am I the one that's gonna disgrace my family? Am I the one that's gonna be left behind? Am I the one that everybody's gonna say, you don't wanna be like him?
Recently diagnosed, he was forced to leave his private school and transfer to a public school in Oakland because his ADHD made it so difficult for him to complete his schoolwork.
This perpetuates the cause of the problem, or I want to convey how I feel about a certain issue or circumstances. But if I can't spell convey or perpetuate, I'm gonna put, well, because I did it, so before I drop that power of that sentence, I'll go call somebody.
Renita grew up in the projects of Kansas City. A high school dropout and a single mother, she still managed to guide her 3 dyslexic children through school. She herself wasn't identified as dyslexic until she went back to school at her son Joe's urging. Joe's own dyslexia has limited his work options, but he's found his calling mentoring kids.
Okay, you need help? Come and talk to me. I have a disability. You can come talk to me. I have dyslexia like you. And they're like, whoa, coach, you're a teacher. How could you have dyslexia? I was like, it doesn't matter who you are or what you do. It's just something that you're born with and you can't change. You can only work with it.
I found out about Joe Stutz in law school. Working as a laborer, shoveling coal in the 1970s, the federal facility he worked for told him he could not become a heavy equipment operator because he could not read.
I walked up to that desk and told him that he thought there was something wrong with me. And when he said those words, you need to think about that, I just sort of melted inside and the anger come back. And that's when I started fighting.
He sued the federal government for discriminating against him as a dyslexic person, and he set a precedent. His case was cited during the drafting of the Americans with Disabilities Act. This act opened the doors for LD people across the country, and Joe's case inspired me to seek out my hidden community. As a dyslexic person, I'm in the bottom 15% in my ability to read, and the bottom 1% in my ability to name letters when I see them. Language is a code, and I can't decipher its basic building blocks. Dyslexia is neurologically based, and it will be part of me as it is part of all dyslexics for life. That's my brain reading on the right. See how much less activity there is? For most people, reading is automatic. For me, it's a manual process. I have to assemble each word, and I often assemble them the wrong way.
As a person with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, I have difficulty choosing where to focus my attention. Regions of my brain that control attention are less active. For me and other people with ADHD, this affects many other activities beyond reading, such as understanding social cues and organizing information.
For most of my life, I hid my dyslexia, pretending I was normal. I just kept trying harder as if it would go away. But trying harder will not give a blind person sight. When I finally got past my shame and started talking about it, I began to find a community. When I learned about Joe Stutz, I felt like I wasn't alone. Like all kids with LD, Joe had a tough time in school.
I made 27 Fs in 1 year. The minute we started having to do reading or spelling, I was out of it. I couldn't do it. They said we were going to have to put him in a special class. And this is the people that was retarded. And they moved me in over there, and I knew I wasn't supposed to be there.
In second and third grade, the primary thing you're doing is you're learning how to read, and it's a very important measure of your competence as a human being. I didn't measure up. I was putting in the time and the energy. I wasn't getting it, and so I felt left out. I felt powerless. When I would come home furious at a teacher for having made me take my spelling test over and over and over, I'd wreck my room. I'd smash things.
I got a draft notice in the mail. The Army, doesn't matter, cook out of me. He would teach you in a way that there was no reading. All the questions was multiple choice. They would read the question, and then they would read the ABC answers. Everything was clicking. He started the test, and I was right on. I just marked him as a go. And the next day, Sergeant Major come up. He said, "You have scored the highest score, and you're going to be our outstanding student of that whole crew coming through." I didn't realize I'd done anything great until I got back and everybody found out about it, and they started accusing me of cheating. Because they knew I couldn't read, but there wasn't no cheating.
I think I came in with the same sort of sunny optimism that most law students start with, I'm going to change the world. But at about week 2, my path and the path of other people in law school started to diverge. I immediately recognized how much trouble I was in, how uphill this battle was going to be. As someone who's dyslexic, I've never been able to read for detail.
In my younger days, I'd work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week if we could. They would send so many of us down there to do the labor work, the shoveling and the digging, cleaning up of the coal. And when I seen the heavy equipment, I knew right then that's what I wanted to do. They wasn't being fair. I knew I could learn, and I could be anything I wanted to be, and they wouldn't give me a chance to prove that I could operate. Alcohol had a big part of the way I stuffed my anger and pain and fear. I used it for all those. The dyslexia part of it was frustrating. The alcohol would get rid of that. People, they was going to apprentices left and right. I seen them, disappear. So-and-so went to heavy equipment operator. I just loved it, and I started fighting harder for that apprenticeship. With the EEO, the Equal Opportunity people, I called them. I told them, I said, I've just been told that I couldn't get an apprenticeship because I couldn't read. Is that against the law? Joey said, you have got a case. He said, I would advise you to get in touch with your lawyer.
Okay, if I listen to books on tape all night, every night, maybe I can keep up with the students who are in the regular class. I had to be able to tell myself that it was not going to be impossible for me to get through law school, that I was going to be able to figure out a way to read even though I was dyslexic. And that denial fed and began to snowball for me because I started to get pain, physical pain, shooting pain down my right leg that was nerve pain because my back was starting to hurt. And so with all of this, both literal and metaphorical weight on me, my back started to a disc started to go. Law school pushed me to my breaking point. Throughout my life, Determination and perseverance had allowed me to succeed, but this approach failed me at law school. Depressed and frustrated, I started to explore my dyslexia. I began to use accommodations, like a talking computer and books on tape. I also started to talk openly about my dyslexia, and in reaching out for others, I met Stephanie May.
I went for the testing, and they came back with this ADHD thing, and I was like, what is this? I didn't know, my family didn't know, they didn't know how to respond, and I didn't know how to respond. So it started me down this whole journey of self-discovery. My problem is that if you zero in on certain processing capabilities, I'm severely below average in the 5th percentile. It involves information retrieval and storage. It's organizing and processing information, speed and accuracy.
Let's compare our numbers. I have mine too.
Oh, compare our numbers. Ben!
When you go to a professor to disclose, what do?
I bring a letter, and it says essentially that my professor is required to accommodate me by federal and state law. You have no choice, you must accommodate this student. And it sets up sort of its own barrier in a way. I went in, I was really nervous. I gave him the letter and was as nice as I could think to be about it. And at the end, he said, well, I don't really believe in learning disabilities. I'm gonna do this because I'm required to do it by law, but I don't like it and I don't think it's fair. The accommodations that I got for that class, on the exams, I got time and a half in a separate room. And for that particular class, that made all the difference in the world for me. When I got the first midterm back, on the curve I shot way above. It was like they did a little distribution. Here's the curve, here's me, right? I got an A+ in that class. Without the accommodation, B- if I'd been lucky. I wouldn't have been able to read the questions out loud to myself and mumble to myself. I've had the experience of being in a class like that without the accommodations, and I look at the paper and I can't make sense of the words because I just am not able to bring my mind into the situation and perform in the way that I'm expected to. Hey dude, what's up? I've come to see Jason at his new school. He's struggling to make it and wants some advice.
First day, yeah. First day is always difficult, you know. Coming to a new school, you're always nervous. So I came to class, everybody
This is a new school for you.
got 2 more years left and I'm gone.
2 more years.
2 more years.
And
That's
then
gonna be
you're
the
out.
longest 2 years of my life, because the most crucial 2 years too.
Yeah, because you want to go out to college.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice for me.
Like most people with LD, Jason has never had a community. I suggested to Ben we talk to Jason and his mother, Iris. If you're gonna really find your way onto a new path, you gotta have a way to get there. It can't just be this giant leap.
The thing that got me through school was a strategy where I knew I had concrete accommodations in place, things that gave me independence. Discussing it with a professor and getting a relationship. Speech software so that your computer can read out loud to you. A separate room for the exam so that you can make noise. Extra time on the final so that you can try and align all these pieces of information.
I think that if I really try hard, like a lot harder than I did, if I try even like harder, no limit to how good I can really do.
When you say to me, I'm gonna try harder, I'm gonna focus more, that sounds to me like you're a person in a wheelchair saying, I'm gonna go up these stairs by trying harder and focusing more.
Right.
And I think instead you need to say, I'm gonna learn to talk to people and say, I need a ramp.
It's really just trying new strategies, given what you've learned, and also to become an advocate for yourself, which is something we're working on.
ADHD is attention deficit, hyper deficit, meaning that when you're talking, I'm gonna be looking around just like you're not even talking. Some teachers look at it as like a sign of disrespect, but it's really not. When I look at that person for so long, I start to think about different things. I see your lips moving, but I don't really hear anything.
Okay. Do you sort of need to come up with some sort of system for communicating with me if you need more, or do I just sort of trust that you're okay with your group?
And if I feel that my group isn't all right, I'll come to you.
Okay. Well, also what some students in math do is that sometimes they will take their test with another adult that can read the questions to them. So
That'd be good. That'd be really good.
We could do that too.
What's great for me in meeting other people who deal with these problems is that It gives me the distance to reflect on myself. If I can see it in someone else, then it's easier for me to acknowledge it in myself.
Renita has faced a lot of challenges in her life. Domestic abuse, welfare, drugs. But she ranks going back to school at age 36 with dyslexia as one of the hardest. Her eldest son, Joe, born when she was just 16, encouraged her to do it.
Then you told me, you said, well, Mom, why don't you just go back to school? I said, how long do it take? And you said, 2 years. I was like, 2 years? And you was like, well, what are you going to be doing in 2 years? Yep, that was the epiphany that actually changed my life. I thought to myself, cleaning toilets? Yes, I think I'll go to school.
When I come and work with kids, I have so much to give. I have my attitude, my charisma. I help kids. They can come talk to me. I'm a big brother. Now, the problem is people will say, if you have a disability, why are you trying to teach people? Well, I feel like with my disability, it's easier for me to teach people because if somebody's having a problem, I can kind of like say, okay, I understand.
And you remember that semester when I got 7 straight A's? And you was like, Mama, how in the world did you get 7 straight A's? I was so happy. I was on the dean's list. And it was just like me just constantly going to tutors. I went to class, I think, at 8 in the morning. And I would stay at school till 4 in the evening every day like a job. I really felt kind of dumb most of my life until I went back to school, so I really do thank God for being able to guide me back in the right direction, which was education. Yeah, He's blessing me, He's blessing me, God is blessing me, He's blessing me, oh yeah, over and over again. He's blessing me, He's blessing me, right here where I stand.
We've been on welfare and in and out of different living situations, homeless, in cars and vans and trucks, living on Greyhound buses. I mean, we had a lot of issues with living situations. I moved 13 or 14 times before I even went to high school.
I was on alcohol and drugs, and boy, get to school. Get home and do your homework, do this and that, because I knew that would be a better life for you than the life I had. Here you are, 15, 16 years old with a baby with no education. What do? Welfare. And I was still trapped in that system until you took me to college.
6 years later, Renita is now earning a bachelor's degree at Berkeley. She attended 2 community colleges to get there, one which provided LD accommodations and one that didn't.
I think I stayed on the dean's list 3 years straight. When I went to Palomar, who didn't have the disability tutor, they didn't have the high-tech center, all they would offer you was extra time. That's it. Well, extra time is not enough if you don't know the information. I went from a 3.5 and a 4.0 down to a 1.86 below what I could get for financial aid. And I was devastated. Like at Laney, Laney, I had the Kurzweil where you sitting at the computer and it's reading and you're reading with it. So it's a word that you don't know, and it's highlighted in yellow. Then all of a sudden, they say that word, and you be like, oh, that's what that word is all this time? They helped me to learn words and then be able to own those words to the point where I could say those words and knew that I was saying it correctly in a sentence. Patience?
My name is Patience.
Yes.
And I love to learn.
All right.
My name is Patience.
Yes.
And I love to learn.
All right.
I signed up for the city of Berkeley to be a garbage man. Garbage men, they make very good money. And they say just write a few words about, why you think you could be a garbage man. So I filled up the 3 lines. I sent my application in. They sent me back a letter saying, this is not what we want. The grammar was off. Your punctuation was off. And I was highly upset because I was like, here is a job that I can do that doesn't require any paperwork, but logging in and out for work.
In the workplace, a lot of times you have so many people fighting for the same job and so many challenges till, you're not sure if you can make it. And you're not sure if, if a person finds out you can't spell as well, they go to the boss, will you be demoted because you don't have what skills they feel like you need to have? That has me kind of shying away from the workplace. I don't ever want to feel like somebody's giving me something. I want to earn whatever I get. So you have to be strong enough to deal with all that and still say, I know that all these things are stacked against me, but I can still make it.
By accepting their disabilities, Renita and Joe are finding ways to excel despite the challenges of the workplace. For me, accepting who I am also made a huge difference. After embracing technology and finding a community, I was able to finish my law degree. But I also came to the conclusion that I could not practice law given my dyslexia and the limits of the workplace. So I found a new path and went to business school. This time, I didn't hide my disability, and it started to open doors for me. I'm in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. It's right on the border of Mississippi and Tennessee. It's near the Tennessee River Valley, and it's where Joe's worked his entire life. I found out about Joe's fight while coming to terms with not practicing law as I'd planned.
I'm kind of nervous, actually. He's so important to me.
I couldn't imagine how hard it must have been for Joe to take on dyslexia discrimination in the workplace without the support of a community or accommodations. Learning his story became a defining moment in my life, and I decided I had to meet him.
Hey.
Joe?
How you doing?
It's great to meet you, friend.
You too.
How you doing?
Too. I'm doing good.
It's real good to be here.
You too. Come on in. Y'all come on in. The first thing I want to say is you're nothing like I imagined.
Neither are you.
I bet. You know,
What'd you imagine?
I don't know. I just an older person, or I just didn't have anything to go by.
I thought you'd be older too.
Yeah, well, I am.
There's a pen. In April of this year, just as I was graduating from law school, I started a new not-for-profit. It's called the Initiative for Learning Identities. And that means the acronym is ILI. And the goal is to record the experiences of successful people with learning disabilities like yourself as a record for young people who are coming up now, so that you've learned all these strategies, I've learned all these strategies, and there was no one there to tell us how to do it. When I signed the documents to create ILI, this was the pen that I used to do it. And I want to give it to you. I wrote on it, to Joe Stutz, ILI, 4/31/2003.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's I just didn't think that what I did would make that big impact on anybody or anything.
Had a huge impact.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So I just copy it like that. Read it.
Overcoming dyslexia. Consider the following.
Would I do any book or anything that way?
One was spanked
You're
by
kidding
his
me.
teacher for the appellant, Mr. Stutz, contends that the defendant, Tennessee Valley Authority, in refusing to allow him visit my employee to enter an apprenticeship program for the position of heavy equipment operator. There is evidence that Mr. Stutz was evaluated by doctors.
I just never have thought that reading was that important myself, because I can't do it, I guess.
You have no idea how much time I have spent trying to get over the fact that I couldn't read.
Oh, get over it.
I'm working on it. Why do you think I'm here? I'm working on it.
I didn't realize how much. I was really being selfish. I done that for myself. I didn't realize it was going to help everybody else at the end. I mean, I didn't have that in my mind. But to find out what it has done is worth more money than they could ever give me. Bam! For all that you've done for me and people like me, I would like for you to have one of these. And my father gave this to me a long time ago. And I would be proud if you would take it and keep fighting for us.
we're going up against something, right? The history of Western civilization is pretty closely tied to a pretty narrow conception of literacy and intelligence. So when we come in and say, I want to go to college even though I can't read, I love to read even though I'm a slow reader. When you're trying to go from somewhere to somewhere else, not only to improve yourself, but also to improve the whole system, that's really the American dream.
The mission of the Initiative for Learning Identities is to build the LD community, teach LD people about their rights, and promote useful technologies and self-advocacy. To learn more, please visit www.iliweb.org.